Good day beautiful people, and welcome back to my channel. In this tutorial I'll be showing you how to cut and sew a double wet pocket. A double wet pocket is very easy to sew. If you follow everything I did in this video, you too will achieve a good result. So let's jump straight into the tutorial. I have my pocket bag here and it measures 21 by 8 inches. The length is 21 inches and the width of the pocket is 8 inches. 8 inches. I have a pair here. That is 8 inches. That is the pocket bag for the double wet pocket. And it's 21. You can see it's 21. You can make yours 18, but I want to have excess. I'll trim it off later. So I have these pieces that I cut out. I cut two pairs, one for the left hand side of the pants and the other for the right hand side of the pants. So it measures 5 by 7 inches, and the other one I have 4 by 7 inches as well. And the next material you'll be needing for this waist pocket is your chalk and your paper stay. Your chalk and your paper stay. You will also need your scissors to cut out excess thread and trim off unwanted fabric that you don't want again. And this is what the paper stay is looking like. The rough part has the gum. You activate the gum with steam. That is how to activate the gum on the paper stem. So the next thing we have here is the back part of the trouser, and I'm going to be marking the wrong side so I know where to stitch when I'm sewing the wet pocket. The fabric I'm using is cashmere. Both the wrong side and the right side are looking alike, so make sure you indicate which side is the wrong side and which side is the right side so that you won't make any mistake. So I'm trimming off the edges because I noticed it was too curved at that point. So the next thing I'm going to do now, I'm going to be marking the darts, where our darts will be. Because my client is a very slim person, I'm going to be marking 4.5 inches from the side seam on the waistline. Please note where I'm taking my measurement from, 4.5 inches. Then you mark that point, and our dart amount is going to be 1 inch. So I'll be marking 1.5 inches on both sides of our first mark point. So I'm going to notch that part so I know where my dart is before going in to mark half inches on both sides. That is 1 inch for the dart. So after marking the dart, I notch that point, and you can see my notch, so I know where to stitch when I want to sew the darts. The next thing you are going to do is to fuse an interfacing, that is the paper stay, on the clothes piece that you are going to use for the wet pocket. I pick one of the wider fabric and one of the smaller fabric, and I place the two of them together, and I've already cut out my interfacing. Look at what I did here. And then I place the interfacing on the wrong side of the fabric. I ensure that the interfacing, the paper stay, is more on the wider piece than on the smaller pairs. So this is what you should be having here, and you can see I moved the wider piece a bit so that you can see what I did here. You can see that more of the paper stay is on the wider side of the fabric. So I'll take it to my iron table and give it a nice press. And before that, I'm going to sew the darts. So I'm going to be sewing my darts here. My dart amount is 1 inch and the length of the dart is going to be 3.5 inches from the waistline. So I'm stitching up to 3.5 of an inch here. And make sure you trim off the excess thread, you don't need them. And when sewing your darts, make sure the waistline are aligned like so. You can see the way I did mine before going ahead to sew the darts. We are sewing up to 3.5 of an inch. After I sewed the dart, I gave it a nice press, and you can see this is what the back is looking like after pressing it, and this is the front of our dart. This is what we are having right here. Now I'm going to take the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to be placing this paper stay on the wrong side of the pants where the dart stop, and then I'm going to iron this on the trouser. So I'm taking this to my iron table to give it a nice press. Make sure the wrong side of your pant is facing you and iron it before going in to place the paper stay on it. Make sure the paper stay is overlapping the dart points by 1 inch or half an inch. Then you press. I flip it over to the other side and also give it a nice press. The reason why you add the paper stay to that point is to give that place more weight when you are sewing your wet pocket to that part of the trouser. The next thing I'm going to teach you is how to prep and fold the wet. And because I'm going to sew a 1/4 inch wet pocket, I take the one with the larger and smaller piece, I place them together and iron it. Then you place the paper stay on it in such a way that more of the paper stay is falling on a larger piece, like it's more on the 5-inch fabric, and you activate the gum using the steam. Make sure you iron this very well. Turn it over to the other side and give it a nice press. After trimming off the excess paper stay, I went ahead to separate the pieces. You can see what I'm doing. Please follow everything that I'm doing in this video. I'll be sewing a 1/4 inch wet pocket, so I'll be folding like this. I'll be folding on an 1/2 inch seam allowance. 1/2 inch seam allowance, because you are going to sew off a 1/4 inch, then you'll be left with a 1/4 inch for the wet. Let me give you an example. If you are going to be sewing a wet pocket that is 1/2 inch, then you'll be folding 1/2 and 1/4 inch. You'll be sewing off that 1/4 inch, then you'll be left with 1/2 inch. So because I'm doing a 1/4 inch wet pocket, I'm going to be folding an 1/2 inch and sew off the 1/4 inch. So I'm using my clapper to smoothen that fold. I'm also going to fold the larger piece in half as well. You can see 1/2 inches. Then I'll iron. Make sure you have a clapper to help smoothen that part of the fold, the grease line of the fold. We have our pocket bag here. I folded it in half and iron. This is what you should have as well. Make sure that the back of the trouser is facing you like this. And I went ahead to indicate the dart points where the darts end with a pin. That's where the darts end. So the next thing you are going to do, you know that we folded our pocket bag and it has a middle line, that is the midpoint. You are going to overlap the dart point where the darts end, overlap it by 1 inch like so. Make sure the pocket bag is straight and make sure that the right side of the pocket bag is facing the wrong side of the trouser. Carry it up the way you see me doing in the video and make sure that the pocket bag is straight at the back. And the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to pin it down. I don't usually do this. For the sake of this tutorial, that's why I'm using the pin to pin it down. The next thing I'm going to do is to mark the width of our wet pocket, and it's going to be 5 inch. So on the dart point, that's where our dart stop. I'll place 1/2 inch on both sides of the dart points. Then rule a straight line. Remember we have our pocket bag behind this line, so I'm going to be stitching on that line to hold the pocket back to the trouser pattern. Just stitch. Don't sew a bite tack. I mean that back stitch. Don't back stitch. Just sew. And this is what you should be having after stitching the pocket bag to the trouser. You can see, make sure your own is like this as well. The next thing we are going to do is to sew the waist pocket. The bigger piece will be at the bottom, while the smaller one will be at the top. The waist that is going to be facing the down part, if you can see in the video, I folded the hem as well. You fold yours as well the way I did mine. So you are going to be placing it on the line like so, that line that you drew, that 5 inches line. And before you do that, make sure you notch the middle. Notch the middle of the waist, just like this. Then you place it on at the tip, and you place that middle part at the tip of the dart. That is where your dart point is. And now you are going to be sewing on an 2/8 seam allowance, that is 1/4 of an inch seam allowance, starting from where your chalk starts to where it ends on the other side. That means that 5 inches. Everything is 5 inches. And make sure you back stitch so that your stitches will not lose, and don't go beyond that 5 inches points. The second welt will be at the top. Notch the middle, notch it halfway like this. From your first stitch line, from your first stitch, measure half an inch. That is the width of the welt pocket. You know the down part you are having 2/8 of an inch, and the upper part is also 2/8 of an inch. So when you fold it inside, you'll be having 2/8 on both sides. That is making half inches to accommodate your welt pocket. So you are going to be placing the second one on the half inches mark. Make sure that the distance between the first stitch and the second stitch is half an inch. The distance between the first stitch and the second stitch is half an inch. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to be marking half inches on the welt pocket like this. So I'm going to be sewing from that our first chalk, where our first 2.5 inches starts. You back stitch, then you sew it up to the next chalk mark. The next thing you are going to do is to notch the middle. See the way I fold the fabric, the trouser. Just see the way I fold it. The way I folded it and I notch. You can see there's a slit there now. And the next thing you are going to do, you are going to follow that stitch and open the welt up like this. You stop half inch before where your stitches stop. Make sure you are not cutting the back of the trouser. You stop half inches from where your stitches stop and you slant and notch up to the points where your stitches stop. You can see I'm notching up to where my stitches stop. You do the same for the other side to get a triangle or an angle, anyone you call it. Make sure you are notching up to where your stitches stop, where you back stitched. And you do the same for the other side as well. You will now flip the welt to the back of the trouser. You flip it to the back like this. Make sure it's relaxed at the back. You can see how relaxed mine is at the back. And this is what you'll be having at the front of the trouser. As you can see, we have our double welt pockets here. You can see how beautiful this is looking. And the next thing you are going to do, you take it to the iron table and iron your seam line. So that's what we are going to do now. I'm going to show you how to iron the seam. Use your finger to spread the seam apart, like the way I'm doing in the video. Then you iron it. You do the same for the upper and the lower part of the wet pocket. I do the same for the lower part as well. You spread it apart with your finger and you iron. You will also iron the front part of the wet pocket to relax the seam at the front. I forgot to do that, so you have to do that yourself. The wet at the down part of the trouser. Please note what I'm doing here. See what I'm doing here, please. I pick up the wet, the down part, like this. The one at the down. You can see what I did. I'm going to stitch that place down. Please look at what I did here. Please make sure you sew on the stitch line. See what I'm doing? I'm going to be sewing on the stitch line to hold that place down. Sew on the stitch line just to hold the wet down. Okay. You stitch up to where that your notch stop and you back stitch. Make sure you place it well. You follow the fold and you stitch up to that point. This place is a bit complicated. I don't know how to explain it. I hope you understand. So when you finish stitching it, you trim off excess thread. I'll bring it closer to the camera so that you see what I just did. See how the back is looking like, and this is the front. Okay, this is where I stitch. You can see I stitch on the seam line. The next thing you are going to do is to hold the two wets together. You pull that angle towards the back like this. You can see the angle, that angle you notched at the front, and you make sure that the wets are close to each other at the front. You stitch on a triangle to hold the two wets together. You flip the triangle to the wrong side of the fabric like this, and you are going to stitch it. You stitch on the triangle. Make sure you are not stitching the close. Stitch on this triangle and make sure that the two wets at the back are close together. So you see I'm stitching on the triangle. Trim off excess thread. You can see what we are having at this point. You can see how close our wet is at that angle, and you are going to do the same thing here. You flip the angle to the other side. Before you do that, make sure the wets are close to each other. You can see what I'm doing here. You follow the step I did here, and you stitch on the triangle to hold the two wets together. and you trim off this part up to half an inch. Please don't trim off the pocket back, just the excess from the wet pockets. Up to half an inch. You do the same for the other side as well. Remember, we folded the down parts of the wet pockets, so you are going to fold it like this and you stitch it to the pocket bag. Back stitch at the beginning and at the end of your stitch. Place the tape at the middle of the wet pocket like this and measure 6.5 inches. This is the length of the pocket bag, or you can also use 7 inches at most. I place the tape at the middle of the wet pocket and I mark 6.5 inches. That's the length of my pocket bag. And I'm also going to do the same at the other side to get a straight line. I flipped the trouser to the right side. You can see what I did here. So I'm going to be folding the pocket bag backward like this. Make sure that you are folding that notch point, that 6.5 inches that you mark. You are folding at that point towards the back like this. And you are going to be stitching from the beginning of the bag down to the end of it like this. You back stitch and you do the same for the other side as well. You trim off excess at the notch points and you flip the bag inside out like the way I'm doing it right now. So this is what you should be having. Very nice. You can see how straight our pocket bag is at the back. And the next thing, you fold the excess at the top like this, as if you are sewing a slant stitch. So you stitch from that upper part So you stitch up all the way and you top stitch the pocket bag as well. You continue the stitches, you top stitch. Please follow everything I'm doing in the video, because the wet pocket is very simple to make and at the same time a little bit complicated. So most of these things I don't know how to explain better. So if you follow everything I'm doing in the video, you too can also achieve the same results. Then you also fold the other side the way you did for the first side. You can see I've folded that other side to be slants. So I'll be trimming off the excess like this. Please trim it off. And you do the same for the other side as well. At this point, this is what your pocket bag should be looking like. A bit slanted at the top and the bottom is straight. We are done with the stitching of the pocket bag. Yours can be curved or straight the way you want. This is what you should have: a very straight and neat pocket bag. You can take this to your machine, to your iron table and iron. So the next thing we are going to do here, we are now going to stitch the upper part of the wet pocket in place, and that's what we are going to do here. We are stitching the pockets back to the wet pocket at the side like so. So you stitch and back stitch. Let me zoom this, because this place is also a bit trickish. Follow what I'm doing here. So you bring the upper wet close to the lower one like this. Make sure the tip of the mouth is facing each other. You air this down, then you stitch from the back like this. You continue the same process. You continue the same process again. Make sure the tip are meeting and you add it at the back. You can see what I'm doing here. And the next thing you do, you stitch. You stitch the pocket bag to the wet pocket, and then you stitch it at the side as well. Go ahead to stitch it at the side. The next thing you are going to do now is to trim off the excess from the upper wet pocket. Follow what I'm doing in the video. That's the excess. We've trimmed it off. This is what your pocket is looking like at this point. The last and not the least step, you just place your hand on the pockets like this, like the way I'm doing right now. Don't stretch, just place your hand on it and stitch the pockets to the trouser. You trim off the excess that you are having. Your wet pocket is ready. And this is what your double wet pocket should be looking like. And if you have any video request, please drop a comment in the comment section. And I hope you've learned a lot from this video. Please don't forget to give this video a thumb up, like and share to your friends and family. And if you are yet to subscribe to my channel, please click on the subscription button and also on the notification bell so that when I upload a new video, you'll be notified. Have a nice day and bye.